Baba akisema left, mi naenda left. The president has spoken, I cannot say no. Speaking on my own behalf now, I can't support something that my people in Manyata are not supporting. If they say no to something, I will never ever say yes.
Hey, and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa, another exciting episode all the time, always excited. But for this one, it's very special. One, I have someone who's become, I think, maybe he's the king of Mount Kenya nowadays, or the prince of Mount Kenya. And where I'm saying this because he represents Manyata constituency, which arguably has become central, the center of Mount Kenya politics somehow. He's going to tell us more about that, and if indeed that is the place that Mount Kenya is going. And well, yeah, if not, we will find out which direction then Mount Kenya is facing, yeah? So thank you for joining us. Welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa, Mr. Mukunji, Gitonga Mukunji.
Yeah,
Honorable.
Thank you very much.
Karibu sana.
Lakini hapo kwa prince ama pekini, hapo hapana sijafika hapo.
You know everyone is watching Embu every now and then.
No, for Embu being the center of Mount Kenya region, even previously, even before we were born, Embu has always been the center of everything, including the eastern region. So yes, it is a center of Mount Kenya.
Politically, they say people were just lull, but now they are very awake.
Well, it depends on what you say. One thing about our people in Embu is they are very woke when it comes to matters politics. They are also very much into actually getting their rightful fair treatment when it comes to leadership. And they are also very keen on leaders. So ukiona umekuja Embu ukaambiwa kidogo hujatosha mboga, ujiangalie, usisikie vibaya.
Wow, that says a lot. You know, this comes a few months after we had the president attend, is it called inauguration of the bishop of the Catholic Church?
Yes.
And we saw what happened.
Yeah.
And then we saw the deputy president also visit, and again he was booed. What's this awakening that is happening?
On the specific event, the inauguration of the Catholic bishop, everything was going on well. Of course, it is obvious that the government is not popular in that region, but everything was calm. Until the president decided to mention a few of his projects, and he started with healthcare. And of course, we know very well that healthcare has taken a downturn in this country. We are talking of SHA. SHA is not working. People have had NHIF that was providing very good programs such as Linda Mama. Kids in school are going to get treatment without any charge. But now in comes SHA that is problematic, but people are still contributing even more. And of course, when he mentioned that, everything just went haywire and people were not happy. And of course, it is something that has shaped the politics of Kenya, because after that is when we have seen now every day when there is a speech or a condolences message from the president, people say no, we don't want to hear it. But I want to say that it is a wake-up call for me as a person who is in this position. I advised the president that it is important to look at these things. I have been very consistent in saying that we don't have to pretend programs that we have introduced are working when they are not working. I mean, if SHA is not working, if Mukunji says SHA 1,000,001 times, it will not work. It is not a political ideology that people need to follow. It is a service that people need to receive. And when people are giving money and they're not getting the service that is required, then of course my advice to the government is to retract, remove it, go back to the settings and have it again rechecked. When it is now ready for consumption, when it is when all these bags have been removed, then we can reintroduce it, and maybe people will accept the outcome. And it is not only SHA. There are other things that are also not very clear. We have introduced policies that are not very popular with the people. And this is one of the problems that has made our government to not go very well with the people. Obviously, they have come also at an extra cost, such as SHA. We used to get people giving 500 shillings. I was doing a random survey, having promised during elections that we are going to have people giving 300 instead of 500. But when I did a random survey of the people who are supposed to give 300, who I know they deserve to give less money, they are even getting a tab of even 1,000.
So it went higher.
And
Mr. Mukunji, what most people will question is, you are talking about this and you are part of the people that make laws in Kenya.
Yes.
Why is it then as Parliament,
yes,
you really have not done something that we as citizens feel is impactful in terms of changing that?
Well, I will say that it is also unfortunate that how bills pass in the National Assembly, because the tyranny of numbers has also been something that has not worked well with giving the best to this country in terms of policies. And we have had many of what we have passed in the National Assembly challenged in courts. I think on my side, when I looked at what is proposed by SHA, I was a little bit more like hoping it will be exactly what we are thinking about. And SHA was actually promising universal health coverage. I mean, everybody to get fair treatment. And you are supposed to pay more if you are earning more, and pay less if you don't have resources to pay. And then you are given universal health coverage. But the precedence of all this was that preparation of what we are pursuing is universal health coverage. And that is something that I support, and I'm eager to see it being implemented. Now, practically, things now are on the ground. First of all, there is no month since SHA started that people have not been deducted the resources that they're supposed to be deducted, especially if you're working and you have a salary. But it is like government was doing it so hurriedly in a way that there was no preparation of the services that people are supposed to get. So they start collecting before they start giving the service. And that is where the problem is. Somebody mentioned to me that we have good bills, we have good policies in the country, but when it comes to implementation, there is a challenge. NHIF had its own issues. One of the biggest issues with NHIF was the fact that there was a lot of corruption around it. People were pretending to have treated the student, and there was all this manner of forgery when it comes to claims, especially from private hospitals. And this now was something that SHA was also supposed to come and solve. And the only hope I had was the government was serious on implementation of this. So now we are now practically looking at what we have achieved, and it's called a review. It is not working. It is not better than NHIF. And I have heard even currently, even the Deputy President, as early as yesterday, say that there is a need to review it. And that tells you that, of course, I am now looking at these policies in a way that now we have to be pushing for piloting of issues before they are introduced in the whole country.
Yeah, that would be a nice way actually of testing.
And that is what I'm saying, and that is what I'm pushing for. If you look at other policies, such as the new funding model, the argument is very simple, that yes, we used to fund campuses and universities and our tertiary institutions, but we used to fund them in a way that we are not keen to individual capability of payment of school fees. The introduction of mean testing equipment, whereby you say, I am a pilot, my father is a pilot, and you're going to a regular program, you can pay better, you can pay more than the other person, is an argument that we can agree on, all of us, because we are capable of, we are made capable differently, and it is something that was making sense. But now, the introduction of this mean testing equipment brought another controversy where an orphan or somebody who is really desperate for education is supposed to pay a lot of money for a degree course in medicine or in engineering. And I believe that is why I really support the fact that we need to start piloting our policies before we introduce them to people. Or, I don't know, we can go the US way and introduce the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency.
Yes.
Whereby we are able to look at the efficiency of what we are introducing, and then we roll it out to the people.
That would be perfect, because if we look at the US, I think somehow it is taking shape in a proper way and changing the country for the better.
We have to wait and see.
As I think already by the fact that they're already doing testing of the amount of money that was spent by USAID and their reports, then that says something. So if we are to adopt something like that, I believe it would be good for this country. The other question that I would ask, now that we've spoken about issues that have gone through Parliament and are not working, a lot of us on this side look at MPs and senators as people who really don't have the interest of the people at heart, in that a lot of these bills are pushed by the executive.
Yes.
So for you as an MP or even your colleagues, much of it is, how are we voting? So you're not voting because you have an interest of the people. You're voting because, how did the executive say we vote? Why is it that MPs do not have an independent mind?
Well, let me say, first, I'm a first-time member of Parliament, and I'm thankful for the people of Manyata constituency and people of Embu for giving me an opportunity at a relatively young age. And one of the things that I was keen is, really, legislature is supposed to be a house of representation. We are actually a house of the people. When I first got into the National Assembly, and you learn the ropes around and you know exactly this is what happens, of course there is a very big interlinkage between what happens in the legislature and what happens in the executive. Because government business really takes the huge chunk of what is done in the National Assembly, and most likely also in the Senate. But at some point, I want to admit, and I want to admit without fear of anything, that the National Assembly has somehow failed this country. It has actually not been able to live up to the interests of its people. And at some point, you have also to delink yourself from the whole National Assembly as a group, and also look at yourself as a representative of the people. And I want to say that the bills that have really hit the people, some increment in taxes, should come hand in hand with a lot of oversight to ensure people don't lose resources, and they feel that the taxes they are paying are actually value for money. And that is squarely on the National Assembly, for the national government. One of the things that has made us lose our name clearly is the Finance Bill 2024. And the Finance Bill 2024, there was obviously an uproar from the people that the bill is not okay and people want nothing to do with it. But of course, as I said, because of the numbers and because of the influence of the executive to the National Assembly, starting from the Speaker to the leaders of the House, it was hard for the National Assembly to actually listen to the people. And I want to say that was very unfortunate. But at the same time, I want to say that we have learned the lesson, especially I, as a young member of parliament. We are going to do more to ensure that House is respected as the House of the people. But at the same time, there is also a problem, because it is not only Mukunji who is the National Assembly. I've realized that the most crazy thing is how people vote. Number one, people vote when it comes to their patronage of their parties. People will say, mimi ni mtu ya Azimio, mimi naheshimu baba. Baba akisema left, mimi naenda left. Baba akisema right, mimi naenda right. Wengine will say that mimi ni mtu ya UDA. So the president has spoken, I cannot say no. And I myself, speaking on my own behalf now, I have kind of also been able to navigate both sides and look at how best way to do things. Number one, I have chosen to talk the language of the people in that house, however is at stake. I can't support something that my people in Manyata are not supporting. If they say no to something, I will never ever say yes to something.
Because they elected you.
Because they elected me.
What do you have to lose as an MP
Yes.
if you're able to stand your ground, irrespective of the executive influence?
There's a lot. You see, this country, many of the things that happen around government, they are run by the president. And this is where I've also decided to take the bull on it with its horns. Because, for example, when it comes to sharing of our budget, a budget is supposed to be made in the National Assembly, not at State House. There is no budget making process in State House. The budget making, when the budget policy statement leaves the cabinet, it lands on the floor of the House, and it culminates to a law that is passed for the budget every single year. And it is the members of parliament that are given the mandate to ensure that they actually pass the budget. So if we are able to stamp the authority and ensure that we actually reserve the budget in the National Assembly, we'll have solved almost 70% of the problems that this country has faced.
So
but if we continue saying, for you to get anything, you have to talk sweetly to the president, then the National Assembly will never do its role, will never work.
So as citizens, we also have to check the quality of people we put in power.
Absolutely, yes. I believe also it extends to the people. Because even when things are bad, you'll hear a certain region saying, this is our person, and even if he is crippled, we are going to stand with him. Even if he is this type, we are going to stand with him. I believe in 2027, I'm seeing a very different type of voting. I'm very optimistic with what has happened with even Gen Zs. There is a lot of conversation around the type of leaders we are getting.
Do you feel, because most people say our political space changed after June 2024.
Yes.
Do you feel Parliament changed after 2024, or are they still stuck in the old?
I don't want to say they have changed, because when I interact with many leaders, the conversation is also around whether you are loyal to the president or loyal to Raila. I believe we have to rethink a new dispensation of leaders for us to say we have changed the National Assembly. And I want to tell you the truth. We don't need a good president in this country. We need a good legislative arm of government to change this country. The excesses of the executive can only be trimmed by the National Assembly that is sober and okay and ready to work for the people.
So Kenyans have to understand the power that MPs have in this country.
Absolutely, yes.
As a young leader, what are the lessons you came in 2022, so that's around 2.5 years now.
Yes.
What are the lessons that you can say you've taken about leadership and basically running a country?
My very biggest lesson that I have taken is you have to be fearless. You don't have to fear anybody, even the president. You can't fear anybody if you want to serve your people. And the name out there, especially from my people, will tell you, Mukunji stands his ground. In any way possible, he will stand his ground. And I have done many development in my constituency. I have done tarmac. I was very keen to start at a high note when it comes to development. I have really changed our schools. I have done a lot of support of parents when it comes to issues to do with education. I have done a lot of electrification. And all those things considered, the time I heard the people say, congratulations, is when they saw how I stood during a finance bill and how I stood during Billy Mwangi's abduction, and when I stood with Rigathi Gachagua during his impeachment.
So those three have been like the key ones.
Those ones have shaped it, and it is simply because people love leaders that can stand their ground and without being shaken. And I believe also you have to align with the people. The other very important lesson is listen to your people keenly. Don't dare go against your people. And it is the same lesson that I'm giving to the president. You might have a good manifesto, but the moment your manifesto is not with the people, you are alone, and you can be told to even take your tarmac and go away with it. And also it's the same lesson I have learned from Raila's loss in AUC. I mean, the amount of resources that have been used moving around Africa, convincing presidents one by one to go and vote for Raila is a lot. But when the rubber met the road during the voting, many of the presidents stood with their regional blocs because of the interests of their country. Mr. President has to actually stand with his people. Kenyans are the bosses here, and he is not the boss. Kenyans are the bosses. And that lesson is the lesson that is going to determine the next dispensation of leaders. If you cannot go to your constituency and tell the people that I want to do a tarmac from here to that place, is it the tarmac you need or it is a toilet? Then you will not be making any impact. And it is enshrined in our constitution. The people.
Sovereign power belongs to the people.
Absolutely.
And leaders must listen, for sure. That's people for sure. You've brought the story of Billy Mwangi, which we actually covered as Alpha House, the story of abductions and how if you, as a young person, what I believe, young people do not have the space to meet the president in person for obvious reasons, but the closest they feel they can meet the president is on social media.
Yes.
How they express themselves, however, is debatable.
Yes.
But does it justify whichever form of expression they choose to get to abductions?
Well, let me first say this, that number one, I had not met Billy Mwangi or his father before I got the news of his abduction. And actually, it is a friend that spoke to me last, maybe, I don't know, in 2022, that called me and told me, Mheshimiwa, this, the father to this gentleman that you are hearing on social media, I've realized is a very close friend of mine. And please see what you can help. And I took to the news. I clearly indicated that Billy Mwangi must be produced alive and unharmed. And if that does not happen, we are going to close all government offices in Embu. And true to our words, we waited for 2 days, and Billy Mwangi was not anywhere to be found. And I took to the streets of Embu very peacefully. No house, no business was touched. And we demanded his release. And we got the police off guard because they were not ready for us.
Also, it was Christmas season.
It was Christmas season. So when we appeared in the streets of Embu and everybody was in support, actually many businesses were like, yes, we need Billy Mwangi back. So when we pushed for that, and it is sad that it got to a position where even the people like Raila Odinga and the rest were very quiet until we did demonstrations in Embu for them to speak out. But I want to actually mention the issue of abduction. It is the lowest this government has ever gotten. It is the lowest this government has ever gotten. It is the worst strategy ever that I never even believed today that is something that can happen in this country. And because it looks like it's something that is well thought of, and many people have been asking who is abducting Kenyans. It is obvious. The abductors of Kenyans is the government. And the president, all the way down, must be very aware of this. And it is sad that a reaction to criticism, however uncomfortable, can actually make people lose their lives, or family get scared because of the strategy of abduction. And I want to tell Kenyans that the worst thing we can do is actually get cowed. The instilling of fear so that you don't express yourself is something that we should not bend low to. We should not allow ourselves to be intimidated in a way that you can be suppressed, enslaved, and not speak your mind. I believe part of the democracy that we enjoy is that part of you can say truth to power without fear and without feeling like you are risking your life. And that is why I am keen to say that that is something that we need to protect. I have written to the Speaker of the National Assembly, and today in the morning is the first thing I did to actually discuss abductions in the National Assembly. And as a matter of fact, even if it goes back all the way to Uhuru's era or Moi's era, we are ready, but we have to discuss abductions, and there should be an investigation on the same. Sad part, and I'm happy that Alpha has covered Billy Mwangi's abduction, that the father to Billy Mwangi wrote a statement. Billy Mwangi wrote a statement. Many of the people who experienced the abduction wrote a statement. Up to today, there was never been a communication of who, how, or where Billy Mwangi was in 15 days. When J.B. Muturi, the cabinet secretary for labor, came out and said that we need also to know what happened, he was called by DCI very quickly to write a statement. But it ends at that part of writing a statement. It tells you that not only there is information that is being hidden, but it is a very clear, orchestrated method of making sure that time kills that conversation of abduction, and we go to another chapter of other things. But we are not going to allow that to happen. We have got to continue talking about this. People have lost their lives. If I go back to the Gen Z demonstrations, so many bodies were found in a swamp somewhere in Embakasi. But up to today, not even one person has ever been arrested. I mean, let's be fair to Kenyans. You'd rather lie to them that this is a person. But we can't be in a country where it is normal to lose your life without anything. I experienced the Gen Z demonstrations firsthand, because when these people were almost getting to the National Assembly, I was actually eating my lunch. So when I heard and I saw the people who serve us coming towards where I was seated, screaming, I also ran. But when I ran, I found people being told to get into the tunnel. But I said, no, I cannot get into the tunnel because, of course, I have seen the numbers of people outside there. It is not logical for me to be hidden somewhere in this place. So I decided to remove my shirt and tie it around my head
and join
and wear my vest and my coat. And I went and mingled with these people. They were not holding even one single stone. They were not holding any knife. They were not holding anything that can harm anybody. They were just many. But the fact that lives were lost in maandamanos where the most crucial weapon was a phone and a flag, I feel like we have gone way back when it comes to matters democracy and freedom, human rights.
My question remains, among all these people that have been abducted, they're from different counties. We had, I think, Kavuli from Ngong.
Yes.
We had the guys from Kitengela, that's Kajiado, probably the constituency, I don't know. But why is it that you are the only MP we have seen speaking against this? Yet these different people who've been abducted and killed come from constituencies,
yes,
and they probably voted for these leaders. And even if they did not, an MP has a right to represent his people. Mm. So why is it that then for MPs it's normal?
Let me say that that is why I'm saying I don't want to speak on behalf of any member of parliament. And I've realized that, of course, when you get to that level of being a member of parliament, you choose your priorities. I choose clearly to speak on behalf of my people, to fight for them, and to demand for their rights. And even their right when it comes to development. I am happy that due to the demonstrations that we did in Embu, not only was Billy Mwangi released, but all the others that were also arrested, and others were being found in some funny places way away from home. I'm happy that others were able to get a chance to live. I mean, the ones that have died, I can't say. I think the country need to call itself into order, because if we allow, today it could be Billy Mwangi, tomorrow it will be you.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it will be your brother or sister, and then what happens? And at some point I was asking, because the rejoinder from government and from the president was, you need to teach your kids discipline. And then I was like, surely discipline. I mean, you bring up kids, but you don't dictate on how they behave. But that does not mean they lose their lives. And even the president with kids, I clearly said that I can't measure discipline. And if there is a stick to measure discipline, I don't think even his kids can say they are the most disciplined kids. Because it is not about discipline, it's about our lives and human rights. So I believe we need to talk more as members of parliament, and maybe it's a wake-up call, and let's see how the motion that I'm bringing in the National Assembly goes.
Yeah.
Because I would like to hear participation of members of parliament on these matters. This one crosses political divides, it crosses tribal divide, it crosses all other levels of division that we can have as a country, because life is life.
That's true.
Yes.
And I think as we, even as the president calls people for discipline for that one particular thing, these are not like young kids.
Yes.
These are people who've gotten IDs, so they are technically considered adults, even working.
Yes.
So if you're demanding discipline from them on using social media, then in my opinion, you also need to be disciplined in how you spend their taxes, because that's why they're angry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the way. So what is your feeling about digital activism, in the sense that like I have a right to express myself the way I feel, and in this case, look at how people like Boniface Mwangi come and call out the government for different things, people like Hanifa.
Yeah.
What is your reaction to that?
Well, social media and digital activism, digital space, provides a very free space. And we need to protect social media, and we need to protect it keenly, because even when it comes to matters of getting good leaders, it will play a very big role. One of the things is that we have seen a lot of activism around it since 2024 finance bill. The finance bill, when people were rejecting it, they used social media space. And it was very clear that our numbers were shared. People were getting messages, WhatsApp messages. I was getting tagged in, tag your member of parliament and tell him this. And it is something that enlightens and tells the leader, any leader, on what people are saying about things. I would say that it is the next big thing, with its own, of course, misuse, because, of course, there is also a lot of bullying, a lot of insults that comes with what happens in social media. But if you look at it keenly, also people appreciate good work in the space, social media space. So I believe it is something that is supposed to be protected. We are going to look at it and see how we can make it even better. I'm happy even in the US, the social media space made the current president to take power, because unlike the gagging that was coming from the Democrats and the push to have him banned in almost all social media pages, Facebook, X, and TikTok, he came in for express yourself in social media. And there is no better space to even reach your leaders than social media.
And today they feel it.
Yes.
They feel the pain when they're abused online,
exactly.
I think.
And I want to give you an example of, I joined TikTok the other day. And today in the morning, I was looking at a message of somebody who I don't know, but it was like, Mheshimiwa level 5 hospital is not working. My kid had to be taken to a private hospital so that he can get some surgery or something. And it tells you that even leaders need to be more keen on social media.
But are politicians understanding the role that social media will play, especially in 2027, because that's our next election?
Yes, absolutely. Many of them are woke on what is happening in the space. And of course, it is a new frontier. It is an emerging issue. So people have to learn and know how to use it. The fact of the matter is almost, I'm here to look at the statistics, but I know we would comfortably say that over 70% of Kenyans are on social media.
Do you know that our current ICTCS had proposed when he was being vetted that the easier way to deal with it is to punish people who are abusive, is to close like a certain social media space? and that is the ICTCS.
Let me. I don't want to look personal to Kabogo, but that was very ill-advised of him to actually insinuate that he can close social media space, courtesy of some disgruntled leaders. I mean, he has leveraged the social media. I've seen him reply to even some of my tweets. He has leveraged social media to be where he is today. As a matter of fact, I would say this without fear of contradiction, that were it not for his TikTok and X, Kabogo would have been forgotten a long time ago. So for him to even dare say that, and him being a CS on that docket, he should actually apologize to Kenyans.
He should.
He should apologize to Kenyans.
That's a feeling with so many young people, actually.
He should apologize to Kenyans.
Vijiki, I hope, yes. CS, you have changed your mind on that and you apologize to us, in a nice way, all the same. From the way you're speaking, you have a very liberal sort of thinking. Just out of curiosity, who are your best current African leaders and why?
Well, I have very, very keen role models. Number one, I'm a big fan of the former president, the late Sankara.
Thomas.
And the reason is, number one, with his young age, he was able to actually exude a lot of optimism of the people of Botswana.
No, Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
Yes.
And at some point, when he was actually getting killed, it is because he was talking of returning the wealth of Burkina Faso, the Burkinas, to the people. And that is one of the reasons why he was killed. And I believe one of the things that has made us not look well to the people is the fact that we look like we want to, us as leaders, remain in power, enrich ourselves, and don't care about the services to the people. The other person that I admire a lot in Africa, I like Julius Malema. I like his freedom of thoughts. I hosted him last year in the country. And while his politics is not going very well this time and this year, I like the fact that he fights for the South African black people. And his message is normally very clear. And of course, with his own controversial way of phrasing it, it makes him be noticed as one of those people who can actually fight for our people in a better way. Outside Africa, maybe I also love Barack Obama. I feel he should have done more for the black people, simply because he had brought in a new frontier of that part of being the first black president. And he has always been an optimistic person when it comes to his speeches. He gives people hope. When leaders come out and really rub it on people's faces that we are here, we are not going anywhere, live with it, we don't care what you're saying, I believe we are losing the trajectory. And that is the sad part of what is happening right now in the country. The leaders are looking aloof, and they're not looking like they're going with the people. And I don't want to speak much about this young general who was elected the other day. Burkina Faso.
I was coming to that because you mentioned Sankara. Sankara came into power the same way that Ibrahim Traore also got into power, through a coup.
Yes.
But when we follow up the news in Burkina Faso at the moment, the country is happy.
Yes.
Ignore the method he got in power.
Yes.
The people are happy.
Yes.
The farmers are happy. He's giving tractors. He's empowering his people.
Yes.
He's sent away the French and the US soldiers who are there taking away their minerals from there too. So when you look at all that, what is your take? And with that, do you still believe in democracy?
The reason why I was avoiding speaking about Traore is because we are yet to get the right impact. As a leader, I know when you get to power, you can exude optimism. But I don't know what happens. I have read the story of Yoweri Museveni when he got to power. And in the 1986, 87, 89, 1990, people were very happy in Uganda. And he was saying, no, I cannot even extend a day when my time comes to go.
Yeah.
But then I look at what is happening to even the former opposition leader, who was just abducted also in Kenya. And today he is standing trial in a military court. I feel like power changes some people and it changes them for bad. Let me give Traore the benefit of the doubt and give him time so that we can actually get inspiration from him that he means well for his people and it is not just some sort of a pretense.
You know why I'm asking is because we are judging him based on the 2 years he's been in power.
Yes.
Home, our judgment for 2 years is different from what they're happy about.
I agree. I'm one of the people who really campaigned for the president. And I want to say that we have not lived to our promise. We used the hustler tag, even the hustler fund that really has the name that we used to campaign is not working. And this is where we need to actually draw the line and say, we can't have people and people's resources getting misused the way they are being misused. The moment this country realizes that we, as the people, have more power, is when we actually are able to make sure that these leaders don't show the arrogance, don't show that they are aloof, and we are able to change our country to the better. For Traore, the tractors, I've seen them. I've seen his interaction with the people. But let's actually give the country time. I'm happy to hear they have formed a very concrete bloc with the Togo and the rest of the countries in a way that they're able to actually ensure they have formed a force that is able to help their people. But we always give people time to ensure that we know them well. Actually, I will tell you, one of the challenges the young leaders have in Kenya is not many leaders have been able to define their leadership. The way I can speak and say, I stand for this, I stand for the right of my people, not many leaders have been able to define what they stand for when it comes to leadership. And it is the sad part because many of the young people in the streets and even in our campuses look up to us for that part of motivation to say, I would like to be like you when I grow up. So it is also something that we are working on. We are having a neatly organized seminars internally to ensure leaders also know that they need to define themselves. Today, when you speak of Uhuru Kenyatta, you know what he did when it comes to development. However, the amount of debt he borrowed. Kibaki was a very calm president, not speaking much, but when it came to matters and looking at prudency of government, he was able to make an impact. Every single part of Kenya today says Kibaki was among the best president. Moi, with his own weaknesses, Moi stood for peace. His clarion call was Mugai na Amani. So you can define these leaders with some sort of of something. And I believe every single leader must define himself
Somehow.
outside
the party.
normal things and the normal things. And sometimes you have to defy your bosses for you to define yourself, because they never allow you to define yourself. You are not allowed to even say something when some people are around. So it is something that I'm taking very keenly, and I believe if I'm to define my leadership, it has to be people-oriented, and as my tag says, form ni kujituma, you have to push until things happen. So we have a lot to work on as young leaders, and I believe there's still time to do more.
And it reminds me of that saying, they say, power is not given. In Kikuyu, they say, si kama ile moshi ya sigara unapitishiwa ya kuwasha. So you really have to work. And I think defining your form of leadership is essentially, that's the meaning of this whole thing. Like, you have to work for it. But you still didn't tell me, do you still believe in democracy? Looking at Kenya and looking at Burkina Faso, maybe.
Let me say this. Democracy, I believe in democracy. But we have to say what is democracy. Democracy is not chaos. It is not the fact that it is supposed to be the popular that have their way. That is very key. And that is why I believe in democracy, because it works with the popular having, the many having their way, and also you having your say, even in the minority side. And that should always be the thing that drives us. Because even Traore, in a way, if you go to Botswana, if you go to Burkina Faso today, and you find him being hated by his people, I know he could have said, no, this is not right. But because his people are saying, we are with you, change our country, that is democracy. Today, if the president popularity is below 10%, and let me give credit to the president in a way, because I see him getting out of his way, and also, excuse me, also getting into these halls and speaking to the young people. In a way, it is only that his policies are not working, but it is democracy that put him there. It is democracy that can either put him back in 2027 or out. So we have to believe in democracy. It normally have its own way of working, and that is how we are supposed to do it. When it comes to authoritarian leadership, and it is very, very hard to be an authoritarian dictator when your people are not with you. So in Africa, many people will refer to Kagame as a dictator. But when you listen to his people, they are like, I don't think we have gotten another person who can take over from him. When that point gets to leadership, of course our constitution is different, because we clearly say that you have to serve a maximum of 2 terms. If you have not convinced your people that you are with them in your second term, you can easily go and you'll do nothing. If you dare do something that is going to change and steal elections and all that, you'll find yourself in very hot soup. So democracy is supposed to be supported. I believe in democracy. Democracy is what I thrive in, because even myself, I have to go back to my people and ask for mandate. And they will tell me, you fit on this, or you fit on this other one.
Interesting.
It is upon them.
Interesting perspective. One of the other young leaders who's trying to define himself, well, ignore maybe they said the end justifies the means.
Yes.
Is Mumia's East Member of Parliament, Peter Salasia. And the other day, he decided to stream what was happening in Parliament. I don't know whether that's in line with the standing orders also. But first, is it okay what he did as a young MP? Do you feel we as the citizens have a right of seeing how you guys are going about your business?
I have said it and I'll say it before. The speaker, and I respect the speaker, our speaker, but he was out of line to call out Honorable Salasia. Honorable Salasia, he was interacting with his citizens and the young people in the chambers. And there is no standing order that says you cannot stream things in the chambers. You are there to represent your people. You can interact with them right there. Then we should also ban people picking calls in the chambers. We should ban people texting when they're in chambers. I mean, all these are forms of interaction. You can stream. Actually, the House, Parliament, is a house of the people. You cannot gag somebody in the house. You cannot arrest. You can, if there's a fight inside Parliament, it should be broadcasted. Because that is where there is the epitome of democracy, the epitome of freedom happens on the floor of the House. You can say anything unless you insult another member where you are told to withdraw and apologize. But it is important we defend democracy and ensure that we embrace the new technologies that are coming up. Salasia was on TikTok. He had a following on TikTok. People are looking at how things are going. And I don't believe Salasia did anything wrong. I will also do it one of these days. I will also go into the chambers and stream live. Because I believe it is the right thing to do. When we make that house that we can close our doors and vote for things without the people watching, then we will pass very unpopular bills.
That's true.
And it will be a sad day for everybody.
I have a question. Now that it's not part of the standing orders, of course, you're the guys who make law. As young legislators, knowing the power that is social media, are you working towards something that would legalize the whole idea of an MP going live? Or how do you plan to go about it?
Let me actually put it like this. I read the standing orders. There's nothing that says that you cannot stream what is happening in the chambers. There's nothing that says that the only channel of news is Bunge. There's nothing that says that. So it was out of line for the speaker to say anything like that. We actually, if it comes a time when we need to actually defend the use of social media in the House, then in our standing orders, there is nothing that says it is wrong, and I believe that is what is supposed to be. It's supposed.
My
to be
question is that the speaker has powers in Parliament.
Yes.
He'll just come say this is an order or give a ruling on that.
Yes.
As young parliamentarians, who, because you're there and you know your audience and you understand the power that there is in that,
Yes.
Is there a legal way of going through it or having it maybe included in the standing orders? I don't know.
I feel like anything that you have not been told to do in the National Assembly, you should do and you can do. So unless now it becomes an issue where we are saying that media is supposed to be only through the Bunge official channels, then streaming live is already legalized in the National Assembly. It is legalized. And if our standing orders change, they should change in a way that they're actually propagating it and making it even easier to do it. Even you can come with there is that light people put
Oh, the stand. And do your thing.
Yeah, do your thing.
Maybe Salasia would be the first to do that. We trust him on that for sure.
He's doing very well in social media.
He's doing well.
Yeah.
But also, I like that his people in Mumias are saying he's working.
He's a guy who knows what he's doing in this country.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And by the way, MPs were rated the other day. What is your take on that rating?
The rating that
and
happened
where were
with
you on that
Infotrack.
list? Yes.
Well, I have a very bad history with Infotrack. Infotrack, when I was winning with close to 95% of the votes in Manyata constituency, they were not even ranking me above 5%. And they were ranking my opponent like is the most popular, who got only 5,000 votes, and I got close to 60,000 votes. So I really don't take this poll seriously. I normally do my own polls. It's important to know your standing. Every time I do very scientific polls to understand what people really want, what I need to put more effort on. But I would tell Kenyans, and it's as simple as this, that there is no ranking nationally that can tell you that this is the best performing MP and this is the worst performing MP, if it does not consider what is the role of the Member of Parliament. The Member of Parliament is judged through legislation, his participation in the House. Mzalendo, the last survey they produced, ranked members with the number of bills they have brought in the House, the number of motions they have brought in the House, the number of participation, contribution in the House. I saw Mzalendo even ranked Oscar Sudi, who has never appeared in the National Assembly to do these things. And he clearly says, yes, I don't appear. Then you say he is even more popular than, he is performing better than some MPs who have brought bills in this House. So it doesn't make sense to me. Then the other part that, of course, a Member of Parliament is judged on is matters of representation. I mean, representation is also ensuring that you also speak on behalf of your people. And obviously, that ranking should also be very clear on what somebody has done so that to justify that. And areas have different interests. That's another thing. Nationally, we come into the National Assembly, but many areas have different interests. I've seen the Northern Kenya members of Parliament being very vocal on lack of teachers in their schools, and media picks that. I've seen members of Parliament from the Western side, the likes of Salasia, being very vocal on issues to do with sugar. And this issue of somebody want to come and put up an ethanol facility, defending that. On this other side, we have coffee and tea. So all these things are things that you can't say this one is more important than this one is more. It is not making sense. If you rank members of Parliament with the usage of NGCDF, which is okay because it happens per constituency, it is also very different because you find some areas have favor than others. Some of the places that we live, we have 200 schools. If you go to a place in Nairobi, let me pick an area like Embakasi East, where my good friend and my SG Babu Wino comes from, he has less than 10 schools. So we have the same resources, but we have different demand when it comes to capability. So how do you rank a Member of Parliament nationally and say this one now is the best performing MP? The best performing MP must be the MP that is the most vocal in the National Assembly, the one that in his representations he has captured the imagination of Kenyans, and the one that on the ground his people are saying that he is working for them, he is oversighting NGCDF well, and that is what is supposed to make sense. So I interacted with that ranking of Infotrack. It lacked all those. It went just with what I would call the normal expected way, and then with some daisy there of ensuring that you put, something that can be believable. And they're also very corrupt. They're also very corrupt. So they have called me a number of times to extort me, and I said, you put me being the last, I don't mind.
So they also extort MPs to rate
they also
them.
extort people.
Wow.
Yes.
The other role you've left out is...
Actually, somebody from Infotrak came looking for me to introduce himself to me so that, I can know. But then I told them, why would I be so stupid to lie to myself? If I'm not popular, I don't have to lie to myself. I need to work.
I think we'll have to speak to Angela here in our studio to also come and...
No, let her deny that and you call me. I'll come with evidence.
No, I will ask her. I'll pose the question.
Yes.
The other role of MPs you left out is oversight, which
Yes,
I think maybe you left out because you guys have not been doing oversight proper.
No, I thought you were coming into it as
no, you're mentioning them. So which sort of you explained at the beginning,
yes,
why it's not happening. But I feel like sometimes Kenyans don't understand those are the key roles of MPs,
yes,
that we judge you on, and that is the constitution that has given you the mandate. So when you look at all these things put together, and some of the issues you've raised, of course, there is politics involved in it.
Yes.
And you have once or twice been seen with then I don't know whether he's still the kingpin or the could-be kingpin of Mount Kenya, Wamunyoro Express. That's what they are calling it. Tell us what's going on there.
Okay, well, on oversight, why I had actually not mentioned much about it is because, of course, oversight has also been structured in Parliament in a very interesting way. Oversight happens through what we call committees of the National Assembly, whereby besides the Public Accounts Committee and the Public Investment Committee, who are able to move all round when it comes to matters of oversighting executive and ministries, many of the committees in Parliament, what we call departmental committees, will oversight a specific ministry and oversight a specific department of government. I am in the housing, urban development, and urban development, housing, and public service committee. And this committee oversights those three departments. One of the things that happens is we look at the budget, and I mentioned that earlier, that we need to look at the budget and clearly push for better use of our resources. There is a lot of stealing in government. It is obvious. And members of parliament are also not immune to that issue of doing even business with government. But the fact of the matter is that we need to do more to ensure Kenyans feel like they are getting value for money, especially with the increment in taxes. And of course, with the pulling out of even issues such as USAID, as you mentioned, you find that we actually need now to put more money to even provide things such as condoms and ARVs. And that means more money is required from people's pockets. If we don't use our resources prudently, we have a challenge. I am on record saying even such things as what Raila was looking for in AU, we need to know how much resources are being used. We also need to know our levies, such as housing levy and these others, are they going to the right usages? These are questions that members of parliament and us as young leaders must always be keen on, to ensure at least we provide oversight to those things. But it is also a process that involves a lot of collaborations. We need to work very closely with you guys in the media. We have lost track on matters to do with investigative journalism. I remember at some point, the current member of parliament for Nyali had very good exposures on matters to do with weaponry, issues to do with corruption, runaway corruption. John Allan Namo came out very strongly on matters fake fertilizer. And those are things that members of parliament must pick and be able to actually ensure those monies don't get lost. We have a challenge with the fact that many of cases of corruption that come to light, they just fizzle away because of time.
Yeah.
And this is because the institutions such as EACC, that is given funding by government, sometimes it shows a lot of compromise. And when they are given that process of they investigate, then the file is taken to DPP. Maybe DPP will sit on it and make the case so weak. So we actually need to call ourselves to order. I believe the president has not done enough in fight of corruption. Wakati alikuja akasema mambo ni matatu, we were very happy, But when now things came and retracted, we have not seen anything that is of essence getting into the courts of law. And I believe there's a lot to work on that area. Now, Wamunyoro.
Yes. Very important for Kenyans. You're one of the foot soldiers, maybe.
I don't deny to be a foot soldier of Wamunyoro because he is a man that I feel like he was unfairly thrown out of government. There was no issue that was raised that would hold water anywhere, even in the courts of law. And let's wait for the courts to determine that. One of the things is that my people also were not happy with his hoster. They were very furious. That has brought a lot of bad blood between the people of Embu at government and the president. And we will wait and see. Of course, there's a lot that we need to do as young people. I've said I like to give everything time, because time is what makes everything show the direction. But we are friends, we work very closely, and I believe there is a lot of things that are coming to change Upper Mbele on matters to do with leadership, especially on our Mulima side. One of the things that is very keen, very clear, is the fact that even government thought Wamunyoro is a pushover. Somebody in government and clearly told me that in 2 weeks' time you will not be hearing the name Rigathi Gachagua. In now 6 months,
we hear it every day.
Every day it has to be the name. So give credit where it's due. And I don't understand why you remove somebody from power, but then you even follow him up and bash him every corner. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense. You removed all the power. And this actually clears the fallacy that power is these police officers that we work with. The power is the people. You can be a president and you feel lonely if you don't have the people. And you'll have your soldiers behind you. So I believe Rigathi Gachagua is enjoying a lot of support in Mount Kenya region. Nobody can joke with Rigathi Gachagua in Mount Kenya region. Nobody.
Even if Uhuru decided to.
No. Uhuru now, you see, the first time Uhuru showed up in public is when he came to Embu. And when he came to Embu, we gave him a standing ovation. That made the president think of looking for him. He actually needs to come back to Embu and say thank you to us, because it is us that shown him he's still somewhere. But anybody who doesn't align with Rigathi Gachagua in Mount Kenya, I don't think he's going anywhere. Politically, now that you have asked a political question.
What's it politically?
Politically, if you don't align, uko nje.
Uko nje kabisa.
Wamunyoro is a place where now it has become a place where those people who feel disgruntled, who have been oppressed, and go and feel nice, because it stands to be a place where somebody was told, we are chasing you back to the village, and rightfully he went all the way to his village.
Do you think Raila Odinga will visit the village now that he was welcomed?
I don't know, but let me say that President was very desperate for Raila to go to AUC, more than Raila himself. And now that that has not happened, the president will either need to lose half of his body in government to accommodate Raila.
And what does that mean?
It means he has to give away almost all the government. He has given out already. Of course, you can see Raila's people in government. But you will have to give more. And that is also another problem that has happened in our National Assembly. These days, we don't have a minority side in the National Assembly. We have a majority 1 and majority 2.
But the court said Azimio is the majority. But then speaking of that, now that you guys are back in Parliament, and of course the Speaker gave the orders, but that was before the loss at AUC. How do you think Raila's loss will impact that majority tag?
I will say this, and I have been observing very keenly what is the conversation around the key lieutenant in both sides. One of the things is clear that the lieutenant of the president are saying we need to change the constitution so that we can give Raila the prime minister's position. And I want to give them a 4-1-1. Any monkey games that comes to the National Assembly around change of the constitution, that we clearly said that we are not going to force people to do things, whereas we have other things that are not working in government, we'll be faced with Kenyans with a lot of rebellion. And I believe we'll wait and see. But at the same time, when I look at Raila as a lieutenant, they are playing safe. They are here and there. They are still saying, we should be ready to go for presidency in 2027. Others are saying, no. We have to hate on Kikuyus. And it's sad that even the laws in AU, some people want to push a narrative that, we will hate on Kikuyus more, which is a dumb idea. The likes of Kaluma and the rest, have seen them try to propagate that. It is stupid. It is ill-advised. It is not holding any water, and nobody can believe them. Raila's laws had nothing to do with Uhuru, had nothing to do with Kikuyus. It is as simple as every president looks up to his people and ensure that he feels he has done the best for his people. And the games on tribal mathematics are coming to change completely. They're coming to change. The new tribe is Gen Z, which is from Rift Valley to Nyanza to the side of Mount Kenya region, will be looking for leaders that are going to ensure that this country does not go back where it is right now.
And it's key that you pointed out that, because I would want to understand. I'm sure most people look at you, Salasia, Jalas, all these young MPs, Babu, and the list goes on. And for many young people, the question is, how did you get into this?
Yes.
Because 2027 is coming, the chance is coming, but the how?
I will even give an example of right now. Many people think for you to be a member of parliament, you have to use a lot of money, you have to use a lot of resources to place your people. Myself, if you come to Embu, you'll find me mingling with people comfortably, and they don't even tell me to give them money. And they express love, and they advise me, literally telling me, Mheshimiwa, hapo huko, usongee hapo. And that actually is a hint to anybody who wants to get into leadership. People vote for the people they know and who they believe in. When I look at how I was elected, I had almost met everybody in Manyata. And I was interacting with them in a way that they could feel my spirit, they could feel how optimistic I am, and they could see my Kujituma slogan and see how I'm pushing for that part of getting that position. So Gen Zs, mujitume, mutokee kwa wananchi, muhakikishe watu wameelewa unasimamia nini, akili yako iko na nini, ili you don't assume that your name is there in social media, you'll be elected. You'll find yourself in a lot of problems. Well, that goes to even these fellas who are talking very much, the likes of Morara and the rest. It is important you actually come clean on what you want. When it comes to leadership, people want you to see you as a solution and also understand you clearly on what you stand for.
So you have to be very clear.
You have to be very clear.
And most people don't know what's your story. Like, where did you begin?
Yes.
Where were you born? Were you born in Manyata, or did you just find yourself in Manyata?
Yes.
Did you even go to school?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, my story is long. I might be forced to spend another day here. But let me try to cut across
yes.
kupiga msasa hapa na pale. Well, me, I was born in a village called Rogomo. Rogomo is in Manyata constituency. I'm a son of around 8 kids. I'm the 4th born. But in between there, of course, my father used to be a driver. When we were growing up, he used to be a driver of a bus of a school called St. Ursula Boarding. A very humble family, nothing much to speak about. We have not had a leadership history of, sijui, somebody has ever become a member of parliament or even a councillor or even kuna watu wanasema chairman wa DIP. But I was a unique kid from the word go, because I was doing very well in school. My records in primary school was fantastic. Then when I went to Ngovi Boys, I was one of the best students, not only in Ngovi Boys, but also in Kenya. I was around number 16 in the country.
On the newspaper, I'm sure
during your time in the newspaper, in the media, and it's the first time I thought, wow, I can become something. And of course, I left there, came to the University of Nairobi. I did engineering. And when I left the University of Nairobi, my experience before I left the university actually was me looking for internship. Although I was very vocal and very vibrant in Sonu, when I got to 3rd year and I was looking for an attachment, I got the shock of my life because I could not get an attachment. I remember calling one of the prominent people around my village in Govio, and he was telling me, we have already filled up. You can try another time. But I had to spend my 3 months without an attachment. And me looking at my transcripts, looking at how good I am, I felt very bad. I was very sad, and I almost got depressed, because this was the reality that you can be a brilliant person and lack opportunity. So what I did is I came back in my 4th year, and the help money that we used to get, I used to get 25,000 Kenya shillings. I remember I took the whole amount and I registered a company, because we were doing a course in 3rd year called renewable energy. It was being taught by Professor Munavu. He's a famous name around. He has been the chairman of NEC. He has been in the advisory board, education by the president. And when he was teaching us, I was like, this one can be an idea that can yield into something. So I registered a company called ERS. And I registered it. I started writing letters. I had a log and a computer in my room. I was sending letters to all these institutions, giving them a proposal of offering a solution for their backup power in the server rooms. But the interesting part, ERS is electoral recyclers and systems. I was keen to the recycling part, whereby I was giving a solution of saying that if I'm replacing your UPS batteries, I will take the old ones and subsidize the price. So that was the selling point that I thought would sell my company. But it was not to be, of course.
Naivety.
So, but let me tell you, Kujitu minus idea, because I was sending so many letters to all these banks, to all these media houses. At some point, the National Bank, I think it went under these days. I don't know. I think it is owned by KCB these days. But when it saw my letter, actually got interested in what I was saying in the letter and called me for a meeting. And because I had given a lot of issues there around...
You're still in school?
I'm still in school.
From maybe hall 6 unaenda?
I was in Chiromo, the other side. So I was giving them a caveat that it is dangerous to have these waste batteries in their server rooms because they produce gases that can affect the people. Well. You know? So they called me and they thought this is a big organization that is very environmentally keen, you know? But then I showed up. I had a suit of my friend. It's called Francis. And I went to that meeting. Then the guy who was the ICT manager was like, hey, is that you? Is it you who have been filling my emails?
Is it the suit or the you?
He almost laughed. But interestingly, he said, okay, like, follow me. I went to the boardroom. He brought a number of guys there. They listened to me keenly. But then they're like, okay, we are not going to give you any business. But what we are going to do to you is we are going to allow you to move around the country and you clean our server rooms. But this is the catch. No cost to the bank.
How are you supposed to move?
See, so, but you know me, in my mind, I know what they are talking about.
Yeah.
I was very keen. So I was given a letter. It was sent to all branches that whenever there is a replacement of batteries, ERS is called. And I picked a lot of waste batteries. You know, batteries there is nothing like a waste battery, because a battery is just, there is a sulfate coat that covers it so that it doesn't have a complete circuit when it comes to power. It doesn't conduct. So I knew all that from previous classwork. But I was given that letter. They started immediately with the headquarters there. I picked batteries and I was putting them in my brother's house, somewhere in Babadogo in Nairobi. He had a 2-bedroom house, almost empty because he had also started his life. And we filled up the whole house with batteries. There were so many. I went even all the way to Lodwar and Mandera. You know, the bank was all over the country. And I remember I used to get the batteries with their cartons and put them all the way. And then I would have this other seat here. It's me and the batteries. And I picked a lot of batteries. And I was like, now I need to know how to sell this. So the first thing is, normally you remember there is the weight guys who come and buying batteries in those mishinani huko. Especially if you have your car battery worn out, you normally have your wachi telling you to give him, and then he sells it for a few coins.
I'm like, what do you do with it?
So it is money because you know a battery is made of plastic. Then some batteries are made with lead. Lead is a very expensive metal. Lead actually have its prices fluctuating like gold. If you want to know the price of a battery today, especially the ones that we use, they're called lead acid battery. You can Google and see the lead prices, you know, all over the world. And it's a metal that is very precious. And there are others that are called nickel batteries, the maintenance-free batteries, or the lithium batteries. So these metals are very, very expensive. So there's nothing like waste. So when I got all of them, and I went to Wahindi on this side of industry area, and I remember I brought one of the Muhindis to the house. They're like, my friend, no, I give you 200,000 for this. All this, bring 200 cash. It's like, Muhindi ananivea 200K. Hey, hapa kuna maneno bana. Hapa kuna maneno. But then, so I started now looking at the logos on the batteries. So I started Googling the manufacturers. So one of the battery CSBs is a battery that is very common in UPSs. UPSs is what you use to make sure that when power goes off, there's no interruption. So I was sending them emails with the pictures of batteries, and I was telling them I have all this. It's a lot. I would like to know what is there, whether you can guys take and export them for reuse. And one of the companies that responded is CSB. They have a regional representation here. So they sent somebody to come, and I got a check of close to 900,000.
Wow.
And I'm still in the university. Hey, maisha ikaanza. Ilikuwa pesa mingi.
Proper, a lot.
So ndio hapo sasa.
Yeah.
I think I got 900,000. I remember he wrote to me what we call an open check. Not open. What do we call this check that you can just go to? No, a check that you can go to the bank and get the money even if you don't have an account.
I've forgotten the name, yes, but I get
it. It's an open check, I think. So I went to a bank somewhere in Babadogo there called, which bank is this? It's called BOA, Bank of Africa. That was the check. So I went there. I came back with the cash, and I told the guy, now bring the container and pick. So I left that place, went bought a car.
Immediately?
Yes, with 400,000.
Wow.
You know, and I said, now
I'm set.
I'm set. And National Bank was my first client. You know, it was my first client in my business. I started even to supply them, and I got into their vendor list. And from there, I've always been adding a client, until by the time I was finishing up, you know, in the university, I had two guys, my roommates, who are my employees.
Wow.
You know?
Nice.
But then from there now, I used to see this is a lot of money, 800,000. And I remember when now I got into, when I got to have at least 5-6 clients, and at some point I got a job of around 16 million. And of course I couldn't manage to get all that money to do and I remember I had to knock on the youth fund office. It was working that time, but they were saying the only money I can give you is 500,000. You know?
Yeah.
And that is why I'm saying Hustler Fund should have provided a different platform for especially people who are startups. They should have started to give people something, especially groups and people who have business that they would like to do so they can employ other people. And I remember I had to now look for a bank loan. And I had got back to my father again, request him for his title deed to actually now get some resources to do that job. And you know, it took a lot of respect for him to do that.
An African man, that's true.
It was a lot of respect. This is a family house. You are
you want to joke with the future of
the inherited piece of land. Hey, it was a lot. Anyway, from there I've never turned back. I'm still doing. You have to still do business, and you have to establish yourself. Even if you are a politician. When I came to VI, I was able to do things without asking for harambes to do these things that people do so that they can get positions. And you know, position also, even when you're saying young people must get a chance, you can also not, if you are unable to move, to fuel a car or even to board a matatu to go to a place for a meeting, it is problematic.
It comes at
but that is not how, that is now on the business side.
Yeah.
Politics side, When I started to just interact with my people. And I had these ideas of bringing people together, borders. I started to bring shows together. I was giving them some blankets, just to ensure the name is getting somewhere. Then, of course, I started the tournament Mpira, and we were able to do a lot of things and get where we are today.
And
so
here
we
you
thank
are.
God.
Beautiful journey. I think people should be inspired by that, especially from a room in school to making a deal. Maybe for most MPs, people don't know what they do to relax on the side, because it's not always that every day you are doing bills.
Yes.
It's not always that you're fixing constituency affairs. What do you do on your free time when you want to chill?
I will shock you to tell you, I do run. I am actually I'm the bronze medalist of the East Africa East Africa Legislative Assembly Games. Currently in Mombasa, I'm the one who won. And
we saw Selassie die on that line.
When Selassie was dying, I was winning. And I love running. I actually have a jogging club in Embu, where we wake up in the morning and run to keep fit. And, it is something that I would recommend to many members of parliament to avoid getting this stuff.
You're just being nice.
Where people are saying you have taken the whole of their budget and put it.
So running will prevent that.
I do run, and when I'm relaxing, I like interacting with people. I'm a person who likes getting to hear people's story. I can call somebody and tell them, just come, we talk. You hear very different, you get inspired. And ideas, you get ideas by just interacting with people.
Great.
Yes.
It's been such a fantastic session speaking to you. And of course, before we close, your vision for Kenya as a whole, if you ever have something for the nation.
Yes.
And of course, for the people of Manyata and Embu at large.
Well, let me start with the vision for Embu and vision for my people. First of all, it is the first time Manyata have given a chance to a young member of parliament. And it gives a lot of, I would say, responsibility to me to ensure that the next member of parliament that gets a chance in Manyata actually is able to be told, now we can trust young people in leadership. And so far, so good. We have a lot of projects that we are doing. We are transforming our schools, completely transforming our schools. I don't know where you went to school, but many schools in Manyata, especially primary schools, were done in the 70s. And they have never seen even a drop of transformation. Currently, you find for every primary school, a number of meters, 100, 200 meters, there is like a private school in the village that looks better, and kids speak in English there because they feel like they are somewhere nice. And I have this vision of ensuring that in another 5 years, schools in Manyata will have tiles, will have good windows, and good roofing, because many of them are raining. I mean, they are literally leaking. And that one we are doing very well. So far, so good, because we are almost at 60%. And I'm happy to report that this year we are going to ensure some of the schools are completely done in a way that kids feel they are in a safe place. And that is one side. Of course, the other key issue that I found, and it is very impactful, was the issue of support. Many of our people right now take their kids to day secondary schools. The day secondary schools they go to, you find the capitation money from government comes once in, 5 months. And it is just 10%. Then by the time we finish the year, they have not even received complete capitation. So we are working very closely with the head teachers to ensure that we have aligned our school fees for the schools, But then I take the biggest burden from parents by ensuring that I support these kids in a way that they're able to school without that part of running away and going to farm miraa and, getting pregnant and all that. And it has worked very impactful. First, on the issue of transforming our primary schools, the classes that have been inhabited by kids and have tiles and this good environment, kids are doing better than these other classes that have not yet been touched. So it is very impactful. On the parent side, whenever a parent gets that 5,000 or 7,000 on support year bursaries, he actually is able to push himself and have an agreement with the teacher that by the time we get to the year, no student has been chased away. So they remain in school. And the impact has even shown on the improvement of our education in Manyata. Many of the schools in Manyata had increased their score in the last results that were announced the other day. Now, the other issue that I'm very key on is the issue of electricity. When I go to Manyata, I found that we are at around, I think it was 70% electricity connectivity. We are now heading to 95% connectivity. The areas that are remaining, we already have a strategy. We are putting in resources from NGCDF, and the government is also matching the same. And of course, you have to push through budget to ensure everybody gets electricity in the area. We will do that to ensure that, number one, whenever a village gets electricity, you have transformed that village.
Yeah.
If you go to Kiandundu today, a place in Kidemu, that was my first complete project of electricity. I want to tell you that these days people have chaff cutters there, they are farming, they are doing vinyozis, and it is very interesting that the vibrancy of that area has completely transformed their lives, which is a very beautiful thing. And I would say it is also a stepping stone to know when you get into maybe another level. If I ever become the president of this country, because I would love to become the president of this country, you know what impacts the people's life. And that is where, as a government, we have to work more and ensure it works. The other thing, of course, that is very key is on empowerment of young people. Let me say that, of course, as a member of parliament, due to the constraint in how we use our NGCDF and the rest, there's a constraint on the amount of things you can do on empowerment. But I've stepped outside the box. What I have done is I have brought a number of people together. I've brought in young people and formed a big circle called Mafundi Circle of Manyata. These young people now, they are hitting close to 1,200. And these young people, what I do is, number one, I brought in a National Construction Authority to certify them so they can be able to work anywhere and they can be able to get jobs. I have also onboarded them that if anybody earns a contract for NGCDF, you normally have to use the Mafundi guys, the SACCO guys, so that they can be able to provide jobs. And in a normal time like right now, because of the projects ongoing in Manyata, over 500 people, young people, are at work in various institutions working to get something for themselves. And it is very impactful. Bringing them together, they even agreed to be contributing something. So what we are doing now is we are getting them equipment. We are also talking to a few stakeholders to ensure that we put in some more resources so they can even start getting some money. They can do their own jobs and build their families. We have also brought in another group of farmers. This is just empowerment. We have brought in our farmers together, over 3,000 farmers. And because coffee and tea and these other crops are well organized, I looked at crops that are not well organized and brought them together. The farmers of avocados, many of the avocado farmers in Manyata are actually misused by brokers. Brokers come, They come to your home, they give you a price, and you really need school fees. You sell your avocados like, cabbage in the market in a very unfair way. So we have brought together farmers of avocados, macadamia, and bananas. These farmers, what we are looking for is to actually ensure they are able to export their own crops, and they can aggregate them and actually get the best price out there. I went to Las Vegas last year and found a kg of ground nuts, macadamia nuts, that has just been roasted and salted, is 10,000 Kenya shillings. Whereas at that moment, when I was in Las Vegas, in Embu, a kg of macadamia nuts was going for 20 shillings. Can you believe it? So if we are able to bridge that gap and ensure that the prices in the market can actually dictate the price for our farmers, then we have been able to transform our farmers completely. We are also trying to get them equipment so that they can be able to hold their crop. Whenever there is an overflow, they're able to hold their crop and be able to actually wait for the market to be able to be favorable to them. The other people I've brought together are people called CHPs. CHPs are what we are calling village doctors. They're the ones that are very busy checking your BP, doing all these manner of things. My mother is part of that team, and is a team that only is given 2,000 Kenya shillings by government and another 2,000 from the county government, which they rarely get because county governments have decided to go free fall on them. They don't give a damn. So I have brought them together. In Manyata, we have over 500 CHPs, and I formed a circle for them. And because all these circles I started and did a harambe for them, I gave them resources so they can start lending each other. They are saving 300 shillings in a month. And currently, in a month, they save over 80,000 shillings. So these are people that I'm seeing can benefit more from support of government, and that is what we are pushing for. And I believe, of course, the impact of this is ensuring that even you encourage other people to come and support and ensure that you help everybody grow. And these are things that are very impactful.
Really, for such, sounds like a very grounded project for an MP and the people.
Absolutely. And it is outside the purview of what we call legislature, representation, and oversight.
Of course, we expect you to do groundwork by all means.
Yes.
However, if I don't ask you this, a lot of people, they call themselves captains, watanimaliza, especially on Twitter. There's a whole group of people who call themselves captains because they chew Mira and Mogoka. And your constituency, I think, is it's the biggest provider of Mogoka in this country. Why are the Mogoka farmers, consumers not in your...
In my part of
because I didn't hear
empowerment.
That. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I have 3 wards that farm Mogoka. And of course, Mogoka has been a very, very controversial crop, especially because of what happened in Mombasa the other day. So it's a very fluctuational crop. I had a conversation with a few guys who are in that sector to see how we can help them. And also it got into government that they were given resources that never got into the ground. And what we are going to do is also, while we are moving on to other crops, because there are even issues to do with milk and the rest, we are also ensuring that we bring them on board. Currently, what we have done is those crops that are really at the mercy of brokers, which leaves them very vulnerable. But Mogoka and the rest, you find very rich young men in Embu because of the Mogoka crop. You might have wind of it now that you have mentioned it.
I have heard it.
So you'll find that they are able to know where their market is.
Okay.
But the competition also between Mirai and Mogoka is also real. And we normally have to actually reconciliate the teams that are traders in Embu to ensure we don't have a lot of controversy. But they are my people, and we interact a lot. They are a very closely knitted team in Embu because there are traders, there are farmers, and there are brokers also in between, because there is the person who knows where the market is.
And then me, I know the consumers.
And you know the consumer, captain, as
So
you call them.
captains, relax. Mheshimiwa got you covered.
Your Mogoka is safe.
Yeah, so Mheshimiwa, it's been such a fantastic...
But on Mogoka also, matters value addition is also key.
Jamba juice.
Jamba juice, I've heard of it. And I feel like we need to embrace our own solutions locally, even when it comes to such things. I feel sad when I see 95% of our tea is for export.
Yeah.
So if our borders are closed, almost close to 90% of our farmers are screwed. Macadamia nuts is the same thing. So we need to come up with this campaign, and it's a campaign that we need to take seriously, of ensuring that we push for local consumer consumption, local produce consumption, so that people can consume things that they produce. If you go to China, China love tea. If you go to a Chinese restaurant, you will find like a black brika.
Yeah.
Whereby you are given that tea and it's poured. You go to China, they even shower with tea because they want to consume what they produce. Kenyans, the same. We really love what comes from our own country. And it is sad that we go all the way to the US to get things that are locally available. It's very sad.
Hopefully that will change. We trust in you, and at least we've seen what it is you're doing for country and for your constituency. And for that, we remain grateful, although we shouldn't be thanking an MP for doing his job.
No, don't thank me.
But at least it's when we see 1 out of a million doing something, then that's something worth looking at. So thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Gitonga, for coming. I know I have taken a lot of your time, but at least the people watching have gotten a lot of value from this conversation. Thank you for watching the episode today. I know we went a bit more, of course, but it was worth every minute. And by now, by the way, I hope you've subscribed. If you've not, please do. And we'll catch you on the next episodes. Thank you for watching.